can rip out people's organs and equip them in your own body, shoot blood out of your literal finger gun, and eat corpses to heal, but it's just not enough. It needs to be more gross. So first, I've changed the player character's design to make it look like you're built out of multiple people's body parts. Now this was actually the main character's original design, but when I went for the zoomed out top-down perspective earlier on in the game's development, that kind of detail just would not show up, so I had to switch to one flat color. But now that the game is first person, I can go with this design again. The lore reason for this is that in your cult, members who have performed legendary activities are put on ice after they die, and then when other members in the future rise up in the ranks, they will have body parts swapped out with those of the deceased ones. So this way, specific body parts have their own legacy, like the left hand of Akira, who used it to crush the skull of the God Emperor of Terra, and after Akira fell, it was wielded by Josephine, who used it to pull the trigger of the sniper rifle that ended the life of the tyrant of Olympia, and now 5 generations later, you wield it. So your body is a tapestry of history and legend, and the more unique parts you have, the higher your status. Right now though, I don't have any plans for you to be able to acquire new limbs as the game progresses, just because it would be a lot more work and I want to focus on the core gameplay. Maybe in Thouest 2. Okay, so next up, I have this problem where when you kill enemies, they just fall over dead. I want them to explode in a shower of gore. So I made some jib graphics, put a simple reflection algorithm on them to make them bounce, and also made them rotate randomly on collisions. Then when you kill an enemy, disable their graphics, spawn a bunch of jibs moving in random directions, and spawn some blood particles, and there we go. You can pick up jibs and eat them, but they won't block bullets like a body will. I like to spray blood all over the surroundings too when you jib an enemy, but right now Godot doesn't have a way to do decals natively, and my implementation from a year ago doesn't have the best performance. But Godot 4.0 will have decal support, so I'll just wait until it releases before adding in blood spray on the environment. Now, I don't want a weak weapon like an SMG to cause jibbing. I need something more powerful. So I made a double barrel shotgun. Every FPS needs a double barrel shotgun. And to be unique, I made the barrels vertical instead of horizontal. Code-wise, I have a pretty modular weapon system. The SMG uses a spray emitter that will give a random rotation within an arc when you shoot, and that's linked to a hit scan bullet emitter that shoots a hit scan bullet. For the shotgun, I just made a burst emitter that shoots multiple times when the fire method is called, and linked the spray emitter to it. Turned out pretty good, but now I have another problem. The way I'm handling jibbing is if you kill an enemy and do a lot of damage on that kill frame, like 30 let's say, they will jib, but the shotgun shoots a bunch of separate bullets that each only do 5 damage. So I had to write some code that tracked the amount of damage taken in the past few frames and see if that totals over 30 so that the shotgun could successfully jib. Next up, I wanted to make a grenade launcher, another classic FPS gun. I thought it would be fun to make a double barrel grenade launcher, and it turns out there was one in real life called the DP64. So inspired by its design, I made this thing. For the grenades, I made them bounce if they hit the ground within the first 1/10 of a second of firing, so you can bounce them around corners if you want, and they won't explode in your face if you shoot the ground right in front of you. Of course, this means you can't grenade boost jump like in Quake, but maybe I can add in alternate fire mode for that. But right now, I like how it makes it more of a mid-range weapon since it makes it harder to hit enemies that are closer to you. For the grenade explosion, I made so they do impact damage on a direct hit, and then splash damage to everything in a certain area. Damage is calculated by getting the distance to an enemy relative to the radius of the explosion and applying that amount to this curve. This curve means enemies at the center of the blast take max damage, while enemies at the edge take about 25%. The last thing I worked on was a gun that shoots ticks. I had this weird idea to have a gun that shoots homing ticks that stick to an enemy and drain their blood. Then I thought it would be cooler if they exploded once they drained enough. So I started sketching ideas for the gun's design. I was thinking maybe a gun with a big tank on the side that you could see the ticks crawling around in. But then I realized I was basically just making a needler that shoots ticks. A tickler, if you will. So I redesigned the gun to have the ticks line its back. I thought it would be funny to make it look like a dead cat with giant ears as crosshairs, but I couldn't figure out how to make that look cool, so I just tried making it look really gory, and that worked. For ammo, I was thinking of having maybe a tank of radioactive stuff or something on the bottom, but then I got the brilliant idea to have a mouth on the bottom that you would feed to reload. I also made so the ticks it shoots have a small glow and trails behind them so you can see them better. And yeah, there we go, the tickler. And then I just worked on general tweaks and stuff, like I made the game much slower paced by reducing everything's speed. You will be able to go as fast as I was in the previous devlog, but you're going to need really high stat organs to do that, and you won't find those right away in the game. And that's all for this devlog. Be sure to back my Patreon to get access to the demos, follow me on Twitch to watch me work on the game live, and check out my game development courses on Udemy to learn how to make a game like this.